I've seen many terrible things during my watch, but none more horrifying than a wasted second-round draft pick. That's why I always use my Fantasy Footballer's Ultimate Draft Kit to guide me through the cold. Though my friends and family league keeps getting smaller and smaller, my fantasy team's just getting stronger and stronger. Join me at www.ultimatedraftkit.com and prepare yourself to fight the good fight. Winter is coming, but so is my #FootClan title. I guess I do know something after all.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from Draft.com Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Welcome in. A little longer today.
Oh, man.
It's that Saturday energy, Mike.
Oh, you watch your cartoons?
You know what it's like.
You're ready to go.
That's right. I got up. Little Gilligan's Island.
Of course. Dad over here. Uncle.
I prefer Danny Tanner,
yeah,
but whatever.
To be fair, back when we were growing up and you had Nick at Night.
I didn't have cable, Mike.
Okay, I'm speaking directly to Jason.
Yes. I'm listening.
When you had Nick at Night, because Nickelodeon was hijacked by the adults and they took over and they
Is that when Gilligan's Island was on?
Yeah, and it was like I Love Lucy and the older sitcoms. Gilligan's Island was a true delight. It's a great show.
It'll feel like a 3-hour tour today. We're going through the mailbag on this fine Saturday, July 14th. We're all here. We're all excited. I've got a great quick question. I want to remind you, FootClanGiveaway.com giving away a signed Keenan Allen Baby Blue jersey. Mike's
Makes me sad.
Yeah.
My tears
50-50 chance Mike just takes it before we ship it out.
My tears are your gain, Foot Clan.
That's right. In so many ways. Signed Stephon Diggs jersey. Signed DeAndre Hopkins mini helmet. Go to FootClanGiveaway.com. Enter for free. And that's all you got to do. It's easy.
Yep.
Find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers, on YouTube. You can subscribe over there. Click the bell. Make sure you get the notifications. That way you know when we go live on YouTube, which we do randomly without any sort of notification.
We don't even know.
We don't know when we're going live.
I sit down, I click a button, I go, what happened? And then I get a bunch of questions and I answer them.
Yeah. So youtube.com/thefantasyfootballers. Thefantasyfootballers.com is the website. All right, quick question of the day. Who is someone that you have been constantly grabbing in the very last round of your mock drafts? This came in from C. Brophy. He said he picks Brandon Marshall. He says he's got a chip on his shoulder and a lot to prove. What, like Adrian Peterson, right?
Yeah.
But who?
Brandon Marshall has nothing to prove.
Yeah.
The only thing he's going to prove is that his NFL career is done.
Touchdowns in neon, Mike. He hasn't done touchdowns in neon.
Yeah, I think that's true. That holds up.
Yeah.
So
checks out.
Who's your favorite last round pick right now? What do you think, Jay?
I will say this. The guy that is my truest, like I saw the question, and instead of just looking at ADP, I went to all my best ball drafts, and I looked at my 17th and 18th pick to see who I was actually drafting the most, and it was actually Andy's pick. So I will hold off on saying that, and instead I went to kind of my second and third place. If I'm in best ball right now, which I usually am over at draft.com/ballers, my favorite last round pick right now
is shocking to me.
It's Antonio Gates. Because, look, if Antonio Gates gets what I expect him to do, which is gets
a contract
as the starting tight end for
Step
Phillip
one.
Rivers, you know, he's with Hunter Henry gone, Antonio Gates is going to have 8-9 touchdowns this year, on his 12 targets.
Whoa.
And the
8-9?
thing is as a last round pick for tight end where I can kind of punt the position, I like that. If I'm doing more mock drafts, not necessarily best ball, the end of, when you're around the 200th pick or so, if Geronimo Allison is on, if he's on there, I mean, I'm 100% grabbing him. I would much rather have Geronimo, who has a job, than Antonio Gates, but I still do think that Antonio Gates is undervalued right now.
I like that Mike took it upon himself to mock the fact that Antonio Gates does not have a contract, when in fact the answer to his question is Dez Bryant.
But the answer to the question is not Dez Bryant because you can't get him in the last round. But here's my explanation for that. Dez Bryant 100% will have a job next year. I believe that. Antonio Gates, the signs point to that he's interested in the Chargers. The Chargers are interested in him. They passed the note back and forth with, do you like me? And they checked maybe.
And he wrote back, I like you minus training camp. And they said,
true.
no problem.
Antonio Gates, very, very old. Dez Bryant is not at – he's – no.
You're getting a scolding look. He's not Gates.
He didn't look super young.
Yeah, look, last year was not great, but Dez Bryant will have a job. I just wanted to bring up that Dez Bryant is an incredible value. We will be talking about him later in the
He's only
best
a value. Don't you think he's only a value because he has no team?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But we're going to talk about him in the Best Ball Bonanza segment. We're going to go over my team while I was on vacation. I did a draft to enter the Best Ball Championship where there's a lot of moolah on the line.
Dez Bryant, Antonio Gates, those guys remind me of when you're in Best Ball early in the offseason before the NFL draft and rookies are in the draft
because they're undervalued.
They're always undervalued. It's a easy, cheap way to get a win, which is what I like.
But my favorite second to last round pick right now, where I've been able to get him, it's Kenneth Dixon. And
running back for
Baltimore Ravens. Jason once again shakes his head at me because of his infatuation with Alex Collins. And I like Alex Collins too.
But
it's
not as much as I do.
It's a zero-sum game with Jason.
Yes.
And there's a zero risk, massive upside with Kenneth Dixon that he could not only earn a starting job if something were to happen to Alex Collins, he can actually play his way to be the starting running back for the Baltimore Ravens.
You mean the way Alex Collins did last year?
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I will grant you that.
And they run the ball well.
It's not a terrible pick at the last round. Risk versus reward. I just believe in Alex Collins, so I don't want to believe in Kenneth Dixon. But
it's fair.
The logic holds up.
My favorite last round pick, which apparently was one of Jason's favorites, is Dede Westbrook, wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Okay. Mike brought up on the live show in Minneapolis, there are gross situations in the NFL right now, and ones that you kind of want to avoid, but the reality is that somebody has to emerge as a relevant fantasy option in Jacksonville. Maybe a couple of guys. Say whatever you want about Dante Moncrief. It hasn't come to fruition. Just because he got changed teams and got a big contract for a one-year deal doesn't mean that he'll be a fruitful fantasy player.
We know
money doesn't do that.
We know every single season. We have this. I mean, this is a guaranteed fact. Whoever gets off to a really hot start in a season, or conversely, whoever gets off to a really poor start in the season, that carries so much more weight through the rest of the season and the following season. Dede Westbrook last year started the year injured. Nobody cared about him. Nobody drafted him. Nobody was paying attention to him. He didn't get in until week 10, but from week 10 through 16, he was on pace for 117 targets and 775 yards, which would be great numbers for a rookie. I mean, those would be much better than Corey Davis.
Marquise Lee was very inefficient. If you look at the numbers, reception perception, the results were bad. If you wanted to just take Dede Westbrook out and substitute the name Keelan Cole, I'll let you do that. If you want to make that your last-round pick, that's fine too. He was dynamic. He was great in the very end of the year, had some big games against big opponents. So if that's your pick, I've seen that a lot too. Keelan Cole, Dede Westbrook. All I'm saying is invest in one of those gross situations with the last pick.
Would you be okay if they took Keelan Cole out and put Dante Moncrief in?
Sure.
So you're just saying a Jags wide receiver with your last pick, take your shot.
Whatever one your favorite is.
Blake Bortles has been a top 10 quarterback twice, and
I got a snake, man.
Thank you. And he was 13 this past season, which in Jason's estimation, that's basically a quarterback one.
We learned that
let me ask you, did he play 16 games?
He did.
Okay, well, Marcus Mariota only played 15 games, so he would have been a quarterback one. Go on, moving on.
All right, a reminder. We'll be in Philadelphia and New York on back-to-back nights, July 26th and 27th. If you want to come and see a live show and be a part of this podcast, go to ballerslive.com. before they sell out.
Yes.
It's harder to buy tickets once they're sold out.
That's a proven fact.
More difficult.
Yeah.
All right, guys, without further ado, we're going to get into the mailbag. We're going to do some best ball advice as well at the end of the show. Mike, you got them pipes ready?
Me.
Mailbag.
Mailbag! Yow! It's good to have you back. All right. If you have a question for the Fantasy Footballers, we want to help you out. Go to the website, click the Submit a Question button, or you can dial our voicemail hotline, 302-464-TFFB. Leave your voicemail question. I think Brooks enjoys it if you mess up on the first couple recordings.
He certainly does.
And then get it right. But we'll start out with a voicemail question.
Hi, guys. This is Peter in California. I'm about to draft in an 8-team league, and I'm wondering what I should do at quarterback. Normally, I wait on quarterback and stream throughout the year, but I know you guys talk a lot about in smaller leagues you want that positional advantage. So should I grab an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson early in the draft, or should I just grab a quarterback with my last pick and stream all year because it's going to be easier with more guys on the waiver? Thanks, guys. Love the show. Bye.
All right. Thanks for the question, Peter. I think my answer goes this direction with that. I mean, I'm pretty sure I know these guys' answer. But if you have to say the word "or" when it comes to quarterbacks, you wait still. Okay?
Yep.
Unless there was somebody. Like Gronk is – there's no "or," right?
Right.
And so in a league that's 8 teams, you don't have to say "or." You know he's the positional advantage, and you can jump on him.
Well,
is that fair?
That's very fair. I thought you were going to say exactly what I was thinking, which was Aaron Rodgers, sure. Russell Wilson is not in the tier of – he doesn't have the history – he's got a long history of finishing as a quarterback one. But in an 8-team league, you're going to be able to stream a quarterback one blindfolded. Aaron Rodgers is the only guy with a history of finishing as the quarterback one over and over and over. However,
Russell Wilson's been top three of the last 4 years.
Well, so
that's a pretty solid recent history.
It's pretty solid, but now you've got Brandon Marshall. And I'm just saying, instead of Paul Richardson, now you've got Schottenheimer as the offensive coordinator wanting to run the ball. I'm not huge on I
would wait. That's what I would do. Mike, would you wait?
Oh, 100%. I would be waiting. But in an 8-team league, I do prioritize Gronk, and it's not a Gronk or this because Kelsey and Ertz are not in the same tier as Gronk. But I do prioritize getting one of those guys in that small
because
of a league.
You're not going to give up. Your team's still going to be great.
Everyone's team is going to be incredible. So you got to find those slight advantages.
You got to be incredible, as Jason would say.
If your league has not started yet, which I assume it has not, you're talking about the draft, I would recommend if you're in an 8-team league, add a couple extra flex positions. It's going to make the league far more fun. I would much rather play in an 8-man league that's got 3 flex spots than a 12 owner league that has 2 poor owners who are not
that changes things
that don't have a lot of money.
Changes things for Gronk's advantage. If you want to kind of take that out of the equation, add more flex spots.
Let me ask you a follow-up, Mike, because last week when you were gone, the question came in about small leagues like this and whether you would extend or reduce bench spots to make it more competitive. And I think we kind of answered oppositely because I was thinking if you have fewer bench spots, then it's easier for people to just quick stream. And if you have more bench spots, maybe it's more competitive on the waiver wire. Which side do you lean on for a smaller league?
I lean more starting positions. Yeah. So instead of 1 flex, I'm going to go 3 flex, and one of those is a super flex and I want to make the quarterback more valuable. In an 8-team league, everyone's going to have an incredible quarterback. Make it so you have to start 2 quarterbacks. Make things deeper and have a larger bench.
All right, Dustin in Michigan says, "Hey, ballers, on this day in 1963, my mother was born."
Oh,
congratulations.
Happy birthday.
Guess how old that makes her? That one snuck up on me a little bit. Also, I'm a huge, long-suffering Lions fan.
Oh.
So he's enormous. I think there's a real possibility.
Huge. He said he's huge.
I'm not. There's a real possibility that Kenny G is Lions wide receiver 1 this year. This is what
I
he
think
thinks.
there's.
This is what he thinks. I try not to reach for players, but I might not be able to help myself with all of those smooth.
Oh, look, the routes, they're smooth.
Smooth routes.
They are so incredibly smooth. But
are they smooth enough for a 1?
Happy birthday to your mother, Dustin. But there is not a real possibility of Kenny G being the number 1 wide receiver.
That'd be a big leap.
That would mean Marvin Jones suffered a season-long injury in training camp.
Yeah, if you want to reach
for him. And then Golden Tate decided to retire.
I don't have a
staying
problem
with him at the hospital.
I see a lot of upside with Kenny.
I'll never leave you, Marvin.
With Kenny Golladay, I see the upside there. I'm fine with you believing that he could be a very relevant player, not to the wide receiver 1, but reaching for him. He's going in the 12th round. So if you reach for him, don't take it before the 10th. The 10th round is a reach, and at that point, take the guys you like. When I get to double digits, I want the guys that I like, and so that's where I would recommend taking.
I was digging into some stats yesterday and saw that Matthew Stafford, he was in the top 5 quarterback-wise in throwing the go route, the fly.
Right. Yeah.
And he was the most efficient by far. Like the most go routes converted into completions. That's because of Marvin Jones.
I was going to say, so
and
in my
Kenny G.
And Kenny G, but more, I mean, far more to Marvin Jones.
In my scenario, where Marvin Jones is not playing and Kenny G is the number 1, Matthew Stafford's efficiency is going to go way down.
All right, Neil from Twitter has a question. Maybe this is lame, but who are some solid wide receivers that can fill your 3rd wide receiver position and contribute weekly?
Larry Fitzgerald, first guy that comes to mind. He's just one of those.
Did you say 3rd wide receiver position?
You can't get
That's
Larry.
not Larry.
You can't get him as a 3rd. He's going
Emmanuel Sanders, if you want to bring his name up as a wide receiver 3.
Larry's going in the back of the 3rd because people are giving him at least some of the respect that he deserves.
They listen to our
I'll
show,
tell you what,
Mike.
Man, a month ago, he was in the 5th round.
Yeah, not anymore.
By the way, just because we like Larry Fitzgerald does not make us homers. If you don't, go look at his stat line, people.
Wait, the guy who's coming off of
I saw we got a 4-star review for liking Larry Fitzgerald, the Hall of Famer.
The guy who's been a top 10 fantasy wide receiver.
Who had 100 receptions or whatever.
Led the league in receptions.
multiple years in a row.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Homers. All you Pittsburgh fans of Antonio Brown.
Right. I know if we were in Green Bay, we would still be allowed to like Aaron Rodgers, right?
That would be permissible.
Okay.
But so other Emmanuel Sanders tier type of players that fill that 3rd wide receiver position.
I've got one later. I'm not a huge fan. I know you two will go, oh, that's great. He's 7th round. But if you're looking for the weekly starter, I believe something could fall off or change, but you guys like him a lot. Pierre Garçon.
Ooh, yes, I do.
Nailed it.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
That's Pierre Garçon.
What a great name, Jay.
Thanks.
Way to bring him up.
It's a great 3rd wide
The more
receiver.
you bring Pierre Garçon up, the better.
And I will say this. I have seen Amari Cooper. His average draft position is like 4th round, but his variance is very wide. I've seen him drop to the 5th round where
I guess that could be technically your 3rd.
Yeah, 2 running backs, 3 wide
Chris
receivers.
Hogan.
Very easy.
Chris
Hogan. I'm rising on Chris Hogan like crazy.
Back of the 5th, almost 6th round. Chris Hogan, Sammy Watkins.
Chris Hogan. Yeah, so funny.
Right at that turn.
Listen, what do you
He's
make?
He's got a lot of heroes.
What do you make of the reality? That was a bad joke.
I liked it.
What do you make of the James Washington and 2 wide receiver sets that is going to be a reality in Pittsburgh this year?
Well,
because
reality's there's talks of it though.
I'm feeling pretty confident that Juju's going, and they'll line up 3 wide most often. But if James Washington is on the field with Big Ben for the majority of snaps,
being Martavis, you're saying?
Well, I'm just saying he's a talented. I mean, he's the reigning wide receiver of the year in college football. I know you and I like him, Mike.
Yes.
I liked him a lot coming in. Now he's on a team where he's the 4th option? I just think it's interesting if a guy's going to get that many snaps. James Washington starts to look like a very interesting name to me, and he could be the reason why Juju doesn't deliver on massive expectations.
It's very possible. Those concerns as well as some others. That's why Juju is such a scary proposition for me at his current ADP. I know Jason talked about being ashamed And not necessarily that he's a bad player, but that's
Look, sometimes
I
the
am
cloud
shocked.
comes in front of the star, Jason.
Well, so just how risk averse you play those early rounds. Your favor of Juju is shocking to me.
That's why he was ashamed.
That's why I was ashamed, because it goes against how I normally draft. I did, however, just write down a great new segment idea from this conversation.
Did you now?
Or maybe a quick question.
Okay.
But it's hard-headed. Like, which players are we just hard-hearted? I don't know. But, like, all I think about
stone.
Here's where it comes from. James Washington, I know I am in the vast minority. I mean,
yes.
I am sitting by myself on the playground watching all the other kids play, where they all love James Washington and his college film. I couldn't stand it.
The Steelers loved it.
Yes, I just thought, he's a one-trick pony that's too short to actually succeed at that trick in the NFL, not fast enough. So to me, I thought he was going to fail. I don't like him. I don't want to like him because I love Juju. So many reasons. But I do recognize, like, you could not have gone to a better situation for his one-trick skill set than to go into the Martavis Bryant role. So I'm kind of hard-headed. I don't want to like him. I refuse to like him. But there are things that say maybe I should.
You just ran the segment.
All right.
Congratulations.
All right, before we jump into the next question, I want to take a moment now to thank our sponsor, Simply Safe. Here's why by the way, we've used Simply Safe here at the studio the last 3 years.
Yep.
Here's why we like Simply Safe, and we're big fans of them. One of the reasons is because they're actually good people, and they charge you what is fair and what is right, and that is like $14.99 a month for security. But the other reason is because, look, they are always ready for whatever is thrown at them. If a storm takes out your power, which, believe it or not, in Arizona this past week, 18 power lines came down in the monsoons.
The microburst.
Simply Safe is still ready. If an intruder comes and cuts your phone line, Simply Safe is ready. If they destroy your keypad or your siren, they still get you the help that you need. And look, maybe it seems like overkill, but, you need to be ready for any worst-case scenario, and that's what makes Simply Safe great. No contracts, no fees. We recommend them, and so you got to check them out. Go to simplysafe.com/footballers. That is a very easy URL. simplysafe.com/footballers.
And we also want to make sure that all of the Foot Clan listening knows about Fantasy Champs. Fantasy Champs is, look, it really
it's like
is
a nickname for our listeners.
It's the right. It's the only place to get your championship gear, your fantasy football championship stuff. They've got trophies, they've got rings, and they're the best trophies. Sometimes I see these pictures of people going, look, I won a #FootClan title, and they're holding up this trophy that I'm like, I'm so proud of you, bud, but but you got to upgrade that thing.
I could be prouder.
I could be a lot prouder. Send me a picture with your Fantasy Champs trophy, and you're looking great. But the two products
you can upgrade.
The two products that I think the Foot Clan needs to know about right now, time sensitive, is we've got the Ultimate Draft kit. They've got the best draft boards. If you want to do the live draft where you're picking guys up, you got the big board on the wall, you put your names on, it's awesome. They're the best boards that I've seen, and you want to be at your draft in a fantasy football jersey that is your fantasy football team name, custom jerseys. You can get 10% off anything there using the code BALLERS. Go to fantasychamps.com.
All right, this question comes in from Facebook, from Jordan L. He says, our commissioner just switched our standard league to a FAB waiver system.
Fabulous.
For tiebreakers, do you prefer continually rolling list, reverse order, or weekly rolling list? And my answer is reverse order. I believe if it's a tie, it should go to the team with the worst record.
I agree completely. Reverse order of standings is one of the reasons people say, how can I convince my league to change? And one of the big hurdles is that people believe that reverse order of standings is actually the far more fair, more balanced. It's going to help the bad teams. The issue that I always bring up is the week that it matters the most is week 1.
Right.
And all these 0-1 teams get higher priority when they're not necessarily bad. They just lost their first week. And I've been in leagues where people try to tank week 1 just so that they can have the better priority on your waivers. That's silly. But
if I ever lose week 1, I want you to know it's because I tanked it.
Yes, on purpose. Yeah, but the reality is, as a tiebreaker for FAB, to still have reverse order of standings, it does help balance. That's my preferred method as well.
I like reverse order, and honestly, I think it's happened in our league maybe a handful.
Really?
Of times. Yeah.
Tied Fab?
Yes.
Oh, it's happened.
It happens all the
definitely
time.
happened quite a bit.
But the thing is you
I
can,
disagree.
It happens with like a $1 or $2 bids all the time.
Okay, yeah, with cheap bids.
Yes.
late in the season, all the $0 bidding, that's where it's like,
yeah, okay, that's for. I'm thinking of those, like the actual players that people are
week
focusing
one,
on.
you want to get the guy
Yes.
who's just come into the best position, and those are rarely ties.
Yes.
Someone spends $30 more than second place.
Guess what, guys? Andrew from Twitter has a question.
Ah,
Hey, Andrew.
I love Michael Keaton.
Wow, well done. I'm the commissioner, he says, of a 10-man dynasty league with 30-player rosters. We're looking at adding 2 expansion teams. How do I add 2 teams to the league without forcing pre-existing managers to give up too much of their talent? That is a tough situation.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a lot of players. That's 300 players distributed. Obviously, some of those players need to be exposed for an expansion draft, and it would be as simple as what? Forcing each owner to have 3 players available to expansion draft or something to that extent?
yeah, I think
The
you would
problem
need more
is
than
how do
3.
you
What you would need
how
to
do you tier them?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to have some situation similar to the NFL where there's a number of guys you can protect on your team. So you could say, okay, whatever that is, whether that's 5 guys or 15 guys, you look at your league and your owners and come up with the number that says you protected this many guys, and then those 2 expansion teams come in and they draft from the pool of everyone that is left, and then you put a cap on a certain team. Like
I was going to say
a
you
certain
don't let
team
them.
can't lose more than whatever number makes mathematical sense.
Yeah, and you could force the expansion teams to work their way up. You could force them to have, 10 of their 30 players could come off of the existing waiver wire. You could force that too, and then let them do an expansion draft to not affect the other teams as much. All right, Twitter question from Brock. Do you guys think that the new helmet rule is going to take away even more value from the running back position for those who are not pass catchers? And how does the new helmet rule affect your draft strategy in fantasy?
I'm not letting it change anything for me. The new helmet rule, it's a safety rule. They pretty much.
It's so overblown.
It could be.
They already kind of had something like this, whereas the running back, once they're in space, cannot lower the head. I don't remember.
It wasn't called very often.
Right. And so now they're trying to protect that protect the players even more, which, in my opinion, good. We need to protect the NFL and keep these players healthy. They're going to figure out a way to play without going head first. They're going to go shoulder first. It's not going to change how I look at thumpers.
Yeah, I will be blown away shocked if come week 4, week 5 of the season we're going, man, I can't believe what a difference this rule made. We're not going to even notice.
There have been some high-profile articles that have come out, and if I'm wrong on the source, I'm sorry, but I think Bleacher Report had a pretty big article that came out about the gray area of this rule and the way it's written into the NFL rulebook, and the fact that because of that, it could massively change based on enforcement, like the way that the NFL is played, because it's completely subjective, right? Like you go back and you look at all the plays from last year, and you could have called this rule on a large majority of them.
That's exactly why I don't think it's going to be called very often.
Well, and I hope you're right. I hope you're right to the degree that, look, we're not changing the game so much that it's not recognizable. That's what the article was trying to make the point of. Let's go to Instagram here. This question comes in from Aaron Matthewman1.
Wait, Aaron Matthewman?
Yeah, Aaron Matthewman1.
Aaron Matthewman!
Number 1.
Oh, of course.
He says bonjour. Aaron from the UK.
Oh, bonjour.
We've heard you all talk about your preferred place to draft in the top 12, but where's your least favorite place to draft?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, my least favorite place to draft is the 12. I don't like being on the turn in general.
Right.
And you're going to get the worst player in the first round, so I hate it.
I actually would rather be on the turn than at 10.
Oh, see, I like when there's that gap of only 1 or 2 teams between me and the turn, because that allows me to kind of play that strat when I'm coming up on my short turn. But
there's no strat to play when you're back-to-back. You get to just pick the next guy.
Yeah, but you've got to reach. I mean,
Yes,
that's
you
one of
do.
the things I've learned over the years. If
True.
I'm on the turn, don't throw ADP out the window. ADP is irrelevant if you're on the turn. When you're on the clock, if there's a guy you want, don't try to get cute and think he's going to come back to you because it's 24 picks.
You're waiting 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Not one.
Just take the guy you want.
That's true. That's not fun. Martin in Nebraska, which teammates score more combined PPR points this year? You ready?
Oh.
Alvin Kamara
Mm-hmm.
and
Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas.
All right.
Thomas?
Or Odell Beckham Jr. and Saquon Barkley.
Oh.
I will say
Wow.
the former. I believe that Kamara and Thomas.
Yeah, give me the Saints. I love Michael Thomas so much this year.
Yeah, I think I would have to go Saints too, which is interesting if you compare ADP, right? Because Alvin Kamara, and
great.
Saquon are going back to back and in any order. But Michael Thomas is always going behind Odell Beckham, so
As he should.
Yeah, as he should, but it's just interesting where you say, okay, we all three expect that the Saints duo will score more fantasy points, but the draft capital to acquire those guys.
And honest, I'm going to stick with the Saints, but just thinking through it some more, will it shock any of us if Saquon Barkley outscores Alvin Kamara?
No.
It won't. It would not shock me at all. It would surprise me a little bit if Michael Thomas outscored Odell Beckham. Maybe it should be the Giants, but
one team is much better than the other.
But
so
that's where I'm going to go with.
Odds are there.
I'm going to take the offense.
Here's an important one, Mike, from Jobu's Ghost on Twitter, specifically for you, Mike.
Oh.
If you could only choose between the beard or your tattoos, which would you choose?
Okay, so as in I either have to shave my beard or my tattoos vanish?
Yes.
Correct.
I'll keep my tattoos then. Because I can do cool things with my hair.
All right.
I've been blessed with a rock star's head of hair.
Yeah, Jesse.
Yeah, me and man. So if you haven't seen this photo, Jason's wife nailed the archetype of our personalities and our show.
She came running into the room in our upstairs master
I
bedroom.
like to imagine she just in the middle of the night did the full sit-up.
No, it's basically like, imagine I'm sitting there, in there, and she just kicks down the door. Just boom! I did it. I did it.
That's right, I did it.
She goes, I finally figured out who you guys are. And I was like, what are you talking about, crazy lady?
I know who we were trying to figure that out.
And she says 2 people before she says the third. My jaw drops. She goes, Uncle Danny, Uncle Jesse, and I'm like, oh my god, and Uncle Joey, from the Full House. If you watch Full House and you listen to the show, you don't even have to know who's who. You don't have to guess.
Right.
We are perfectly.
There's one musician, one dad. And one
comedian.
But we put the post up comparing our pictures, and I've never experienced this level of Twitter grief of apparently the public perception of John Stamos is still at a peak level because people were destroying me saying, oh, Mike wishes he could be Uncle Jesse.
Yeah. I was surprised
Who is in fact a musician on the show, which you are as well.
Look, musician.
Mike wishes is the first reply.
Cool, devastatingly handsome. I mean, like, did I describe myself or Uncle Jesse? Who's to say?
Have mercy.
Oh, cut it out.
Yeah. Oh, goodness gracious. I'll bring you your very kind moment at the end of the show with the soft music.
Oh.
Guys, let's talk some best ball.
Best Ball Bonanza, brought to you by Draft.
Yeehaw! Yeehaw! Yeah, give it.
I got to get there.
Thank you.
That's best ball. It's the Wild West. You can grab Dez Bryant and Antonio Gates late in your draft.
So, like I hinted at the beginning of the show, entered the best ball championship on Draft, which I highly recommend you get in on because there's a lot of money at stake. A lot of money. And
they're giving away $1 million in prizes.
Yeah, I was going to say, one might say $1 million.
Yeah. Well, you can't win $1 million,
no,
but that's the total prize pool. But so I went with a different strategy, a different approach. So I want to read through this roster, then we'll talk through how we think it went for me. As I went 2 quarterback, 2 tight end. So that's it.
Real thin. No matching bye weeks.
Correct. And in order to do that, I went very early on both of those positions. And roster construction is such a huge part of best ball. People always ask you, well, what's the best way to do it?
We're going to discuss that next week.
Sure. But reminders for this, I only have 2 of each, 2 of the onesies.
So who do you got?
So at the quarterback position, I have Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. And I know Winston is suspended, but I felt like I can get if I'm spending a 6th-round pick on Russell Wilson, he's my guy. My other quarterback better not be outscoring him, or that's just a complete waste of a pick. At running back, Melvin Gordon, Darius Geis. Those are my 2 locked-in, what I perceive as my weekly starters. And because
I want to know your other 2 position first. Give me your other two tight ends, because you said you went 2 tight ends to quarterback.
So
I just want to know your limited position.
Rob Gronkowski.
Okay,
and
I've heard of him.
And Luke Wilson.
That's concerning.
Oh, yeah, but
Gronk Gronk. Let's say Gronk goes down like every year of his career.
If that happens, then my team is toast anyway.
So basically, you're banking your entire best ball season on Gronk's health?
That is correct.
Okay.
But that's what you got to swing for the fences in the $1 million.
Right.
Sure.
And so that's exactly what I did. So those are my onesies.
Gordon, Geis.
Those are my 2 locked-in studs. And here's all my lotto tickets at the running back position. Ty Montgomery, Latavius Murray, Kenneth Dixon, Kalen Ballage, and then I felt like, I've got a lot of just pure lotto upside guys there. I need someone who I think can give me at least some steady points.
You need one of those guys to take over a job.
Yes.
At least.
And so I really only had 2 locked-in starters, and there's Darren Sproles at the end. Now, he's not going to be
best ball, whatever. That's fine.
Right. But Darren Sproles is good for at least a few points a week. Then at wide receiver, I got Larry Fitzgerald, Marvin Jones, Cooper Kupp. That's my trifecta of weekly starters, perceived starters. And then my upside guys, Randall Cobb, Dez Bryant, who I talked about. I grabbed him in the 9th round of this tournament. Tyrell Williams, Quincy Enunwa. So my depth, because of going with Russell Wilson and Gronk, is definitely questionable. Like I said,
it feels so different.
I feel like I have 2 starting running backs and then really hoping that one of those guys takes over the starting job, which with those 4 guys, I think there is a decent shot that one of those guys can emerge to be a fantasy asset.
Let me ask you this. What round did you take Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I want to know the same.
6th round.
And where did you take Winston?
Very late.
Because I feel like Winston and Wilson could have been anybody for your decision making. Like, you basically went Wilson and Gronk.
Sure.
And then you need a bye week fill in. Otherwise, you're not going to win this thing, right?
Right. And it was when I made the decision to take Russell Wilson, it was, this is not how I advocate playing fantasy football. This is not what I tell people to do on the podcast. This is not how I actually play.
But you're going for
I'm going to take a shot at this for one of these lineups
and see how it turns out.
Yeah, and then see my end result. So
finishing middle of the pack in that is not the goal.
Right.
You need it to go right.
You need first, you last.
And Russell Wilson and Gronk could both be number 1 at their positions. And, your running backs are concerning.
Certainly.
But interesting. Very interesting. I had a lot of success in best ball last year with what I called the pile of rookies.
Yeah.
It looked like foolishness to start the year, but I remember I had a best ball league against you guys.
Yeah.
Where I went 4 straight rounds. It was like Kamara and Hunt, and I don't even remember all of them, but I went like 4 consecutive rookie running backs. I mean, you obviously have Ballage in this mix here, a player that on Twitter, Matthew Berry and myself were facing off against Mike Clay and
myself.
Jason Moore, yeah. We need to get that to happen.
I'm not a big Ballage fan. However, in best ball, I do think if Ballage has 3 or 4 just breakaway straight line, can't catch
Stop
me touchdowns.
Saying straight line every time you use his name.
I don't know how to not.
It's a fair
assessment. But if he has one of those track meet straight line runs a few times,
I'm thankful that the NFL fields are straight.
They're
not curved at all.
Yeah, it's not cross country. That's good. But you get those scores if he has the 40-yard touchdown breakaway. So I do like him better as a late round guy. The one thing I'll point out, if you are going to play the $1 million tournament, is that it's different than all the other best balls by the fact that come week 12, towards the end of the season, they kind of eliminate. You've got to be in that top, and then you basically go tournament mode for those last playoff, basically like fantasy playoffs.
Right.
So you actually have to. This is the only time, the only situation where I would ever look at playoff strength of schedule, because we're probably going to be wrong on a lot of the strength of schedule numbers by the end of the year. There's a lot of change over there, but I will look at least right now. And so just to give you an idea of some of the teams that have really good schedules during the playoff weeks, you've got Denver. So if you want a late-round quarterback, Case Keenum it costs you nothing on that, and he might have a great playoff run. Indianapolis, if you're going to take that swing for the fences Andrew Luck pick, he does have a great schedule. Carolina with Cam Newton. So that's the passing games. And then if you're looking at running back, you've got New England up top if you want to go rookie Sony Michel, as Andy loves to do. Chicago, New York Jets. So you can get some cheaper running back options there that might be able to pop in the playoffs.
And I will say during the draft, so Gronk was 2nd round, Russell Wilson was 6th round. So just watching Trey Burton go in the 8th, and then Andrew Luck went right around there too. It was a punch in the nethers.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
It was like, I don't like this strategy. It was it was late at night, and I'm like, I'm going, whatever. I'm going for it. And then just
that's the fun thing about best ball, though.
Mistakes were made.
Yeah, that's the fun thing about it, is you get to roll out different rosters. You get to take different shots. If you've got a feeling on a couple players that you think can win you a league, take that shot. Take that opportunity. You got something on your notes there, Jason? You doing all right?
No, I was just looking at his team again. I don't love it, but I understand the idea, the genesis, the swing for the fences, and it's always good to try those things out. And if it proves out to be a good team, then you win a lot of money.
We'll see.
You're sharing, though, right?
Yes.
You're sharing that money, the winnings?
Oh, yeah.
Not your tips, the actual winnings.
Oh, sure. It's in the mail, fellas.
You guys got any other closing thoughts? Nope. Draft.com/ballers, by the way, to participate in best ball. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, ballerslive.com if you want to come see us in Philly and New York in the next couple of weeks, which you do. And we'll catch you soon.
Hey, and we'll see you next week, Footland.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.